The article used for this Cmap is entitled Life, Writing, Resistance, and the Points of Representation, a Critical Discourse Analysis of Eli Clare's Learning to Speak. The author uses critical discourse analysis to examine a poem by writer Eli Clare entitled Learning to Speak. In this short poem, Clare discusses his experience as a person with a disability. His words challenge the normative discourse with a disability counter-narrative. The author of the article talks about how personal experiences of people with disabilities written in literary forms contributes to the empowerment of all people by challenging the normative views of body. The article begins with a discussion of cultural models, which are defined as stories that help people understand their world. Cultural models help us understand how difference is viewed and representations and self-representations. The dominant position in cultural models is the normative position or the normative body. This is often viewed as the way things are. The normative position privileges actions conforming to normalcy and the normative body which with Western standards of beauty, fitness, strength, independence, and intelligence. The normative position also privileges ways of doing and being which are seen as normal. The normative position misrepresents what constitutes normal or desirable, and it also misrepresents the disabled body as dependent and weak. The normative position contributes to the oppression of those outside constructs of the normative body. The normative position also contributes to the denying of empowerment to disabled bodies by perpetuating that disability is undesirable, deviant, and deficient. The normative position also contributes to the silencing of individual voices of people with disabilities. The cultural model that challenges the normative position is an emerging position called disability counter-narrative. The disability counter-narrative purposefully draws attention to the outsider status of those with disabilities through verbiage such as that used by Eli Clare, which is where he says he's stumped instead of walking, and he used sign language that he made up versus talking. The disability counter-narrative also purposefully draws attention to the privileged status of the able-bodied. And the disability counter-narrative also draws attention to the great efforts that are made by those with disabilities to do things, to act in accordance with the dominant cultural models, and how that takes great amount of effort. The disability counter-narrative challenges the hegemonic view of the ideal body by describing these views as acts of thievery. These acts of thievery are perpetuated by institutions such as education, the media, and government. And these acts of thievery steal through acts of bias and prejudice, portrayal in the media, laughter at those with disabilities, and staring at those who do not conform to the normative body model. The disability counter-narrative also challenges the medical normative discourse by honoring the differing movements of disabled bodies and by refusing the discourse of disability as being inherently inferior. The disability counter-narrative leads to the reclaiming of the disabled body as being neither deficient nor deviant. And it also leads to the discourse of empowerment with using words such as memorize, embody, and create to describe people with disabilities and the actions that they take. The disability counter-narrative also leads to alternate social practices, such as the acceptance of alternate forms of movement and the diversity of communication styles. These were the two positions taken and compared in the article which analyzed Eli Clare's poem.